One had 3 wheels and replaced a horse. Another ran on steam in the 1950s, while the rest of the world had moved to diesel decades earlier. A third was powered by an engine so bizarre that mechanics nicknamed it the Knocker because of the unholy racket it made. Britain did not just build lorries. Britain built the weirdest, most eccentric, most gloriously odd commercial vehicles the world has ever seen. Here are 10 that you never knew existed. Number 10. Scammell Mechanical Horse. We start with a lorry that was not really a lorry at all. The Scammell Mechanical Horse was a 3-wheeled tractor unit designed in the early 1930s to do exactly what its name says, replace the horse. In the 1920s, British railway companies still relied heavily on horse-drawn carts to deliver parcels and goods through narrow city streets. The London and North Eastern Railway approached Napier for a motorized solution, but Napier sold the project to Scammell Lorries of Watford, who handed it to their designer, Oliver Danson North. What North created was brilliantly peculiar. The mechanical horse had a single-steered front wheel and 2 rear wheels with an automatic coupling mechanism that could hitch and unhitch trailers in seconds. A driver could reverse up to a trailer, engage the coupling automatically, and be on his way without ever leaving the cab. This was critical for railway delivery work, where a single tractor might swap between dozens of trailers in a day. The original mechanical horse used a 1,125cc petrol engine, producing just 10 horsepower. It could carry loads of 3 or 6 tons, depending on the variant. It looked absurd with its tiny cab perched over that single front wheel, but it was phenomenally effective. Over 30,000 mechanical horses of all types were built. Railway companies, postal services, and delivery firms across Britain used them for decades. The mechanical horse was eventually replaced by its successor, the Scammell Scarab, in 1948, but the 3-wheeled concept survived until 1967. Number 9. Sentinel S4 Steam Waggon. While the rest of the commercial vehicle world had embraced diesel and petrol engines by the 1930s, one stubborn British manufacturer refused to give up on steam. Sentinel Waggon Works of Shrewsbury, and yes, they deliberately spelled it wagon with a double G, continued building steam-powered lorries right into the 1950s. The S4, introduced in 1934 as part of the new S-type range, was the most advanced steam lorry ever produced. It featured a single-acting 4-cylinder underfloor engine with a longitudinal crankshaft and an overhead worm-drive rear axle. The boiler was set back behind the cab for better weight distribution, and the whole thing could cruise at 40 to 50 miles per hour, which was impressive for any lorry of the era, let alone one powered by steam. The S-type range was available in 4, 6, and 8-wheel configurations, designated S4, S6, and S8. In total, approximately 3,750 Sentinel standard steam wagons were produced over 17 years, making it the biggest-selling steam lorry ever built. Some were still in commercial use into the 1950s, and Sentinel even produced 100 steam wagons for the Argentine government in the early 1990s. Sentinel eventually transitioned to diesel lorries in 1947, but sales dwindled. Rolls-Royce acquired the factory in 1956 for diesel engine production, and Sentinel lorry manufacturing ceased. It was the end of the steam lorry era in Britain, a chapter of motoring history that most people have completely forgotten. Number 8. Commer Knocker with the TS3 engine. The Commer TS3 is quite possibly the strangest diesel engine ever fitted to a production lorry anywhere in the world. Developed by a tiny team of just 4 engineers at the Roots Group, led by Chief Engineer Eric Coy, the TS3 was an opposed piston, 2-stroke supercharged diesel engine. And if that sounds complicated, the reality was even more bizarre. The TS3 had 3 cylinders, but each cylinder contained 2 pistons facing each other. That gave it 6 pistons in total, but only 3 combustion chambers. The pistons moved towards each other to compress the fuel mixture, then were driven apart by the combustion. Unlike most opposed piston engines that use 2 crankshafts, the TS3 used a single crankshaft beneath the cylinders, connected to the upper pistons through a system of rocker shafts and bell cranks. A massive Roots-type supercharger forced air into the cylinders for scavenging. The total displacement was just 3.26 liters. Yet the engine produced around 105 horsepower and 270 pound-feet of torque, which was comparable to conventional diesel engines twice its size. Because of its compact dimensions and flat profile, it could be mounted under the cab floor, eliminating the need for a bonnet entirely, and allowing Commer to build true cab-forward lorries. The TS3 was fitted in Commer trucks from 1954 until 1968. Drivers nicknamed it the Knocker because of its distinctive clattering exhaust note that could be heard from streets away. Roots was developing a four-cylinder successor, the TS4, but the acquisition of the Roots Group by Chrysler killed the project. The Commer name itself was dropped in favor of Dodge, and one of the most innovative British engine designs ever created was consigned to history. Number 7. Thornycroft Mighty Antar. The Mighty Antar was not just a lorry. It was a monster designed to haul tanks across deserts. Thornycroft of Basingstoke developed the Antar in the late 1940s, originally as a civilian oilfield vehicle for transporting heavy pipes over rough terrain. Its military potential was quickly recognized, and it became the standard tank transporter of the British Army for decades. The truly strange part was what powered it. The early Antars used a Rover Meteorite V8 engine, which was a cut-down version of the Rolls-Royce Meteor V12, which itself was a detuned version of the legendary Rolls-Royce Merlin aircraft engine used in Spitfires and Lancasters during World War II. So in essence, the Mighty Antar was a lorry powered by a derivative of a fighter plane engine. The Mark I version produced 285 brake horsepower from an 18.4-liter V8 petrol engine. The Antar was a 6x4 configuration, meaning 6 wheels with 4 driven, and twin wheels on both rear axles gave it 10 wheels in total. It was paired with either a 50-ton or 60-ton semi-trailer for carrying Centurion and later Chieftain tanks. The transmission was a 4-speed crash gearbox with a 3-speed transfer case, giving 12 gear ratios in total. Later Marks were re-engined with Rolls-Royce supercharged diesel engines. Thornycroft was absorbed into AEC in 1961, and then AEC was swallowed by Leyland. The Basingstoke factory closed in 1969, and Antar production and support was transferred to Scammell at Watford. The Antar soldiered on in British Army service until 1986, when it was replaced by the Scammell Commander. Number 6. Guy Invincible. Guy Motors of Wolverhampton was one of those quintessentially British companies that punched well above its weight. Founded in 1914 by Sidney Guy, a former works manager at Sunbeam, the company built lorries, buses, trolleybuses, and even briefly made luxury cars with a V8 engine in the early 1920s. The company's radiator cap featured a distinctive Native American head mascot with the slogan, "Feathers in our cap." The Invincible, introduced in 1954 as a maximum-weight 8-wheeler, was Guy's flagship lorry. What made it unusual was its extraordinary flexibility. By 1958, the Invincible Mark II was offered with a choice of engines from 5 different manufacturers, including Gardner, AEC, Leyland, Meadows, and Rolls-Royce. Similarly, gearboxes were available from Meadows, Fuller, Leyland, and David Brown. Rear axles came from ENV and Kirkstall Forge. Each vehicle's exact configuration was recorded on an erection sheet because the permutations were so vast that no two Invincibles were necessarily identical. Despite this engineering cleverness, Guy was plagued by financial problems. The disastrous Wolfrunian bus chassis and losses from their South African operations drove the company into receivership in Jaguar's Sir William Lyons bought the company for just £800,000, stripped it back, and kept it ticking over. Guy later became part of British Leyland, and lorry production at Wolverhampton was phased out entirely in Number 5. Foden FG6 15. Foden of Sandbach, Cheshire, was a company with deep roots in steam. They had been building steam wagons since 1880, and the transition to diesel in the 1930s was so controversial that it caused a family split. Edwin Richard Foden, son of the founder, was so opposed to his own company's reluctance to build diesel lorries that he left and founded a rival company, ERF, Edwin Richard Foden, right down the road. The family feud became one of the most famous in British industrial history. The FG615, introduced in 1948, was part of Foden's post-war diesel range and was a classic British 8-wheeler. It was powered by the Gardner 6LW engine, a legendary 6-cylinder diesel that was virtually indestructible. The Gardner engine was renowned among British hauliers for its fuel economy and longevity. Some Gardner-powered Fodens ran for over 1 million miles. What made the FG series distinctive was its construction. Foden built almost everything in-house at their Sandbach works, including the chassis, gearbox and rear axles. The two-stroke exhaust note of the Gardner engine combined with the characteristic Foden styling created a lorry that was instantly recognizable on British roads. The FG range evolved through the 1950s and 1960s, eventually giving way to the more modern S-Series and then the Fleetmaster range. Foden remained independent until 1980, when it was purchased by Packard, the American company that also owned Kenworth and Peterbilt. The last true Foden was built in 2006, though by that point they were essentially rebadged DAF trucks. Number 4. Albion Clydesdale. Albion Motors of Scotstoun, Glasgow, was Scotland's proudest lorry manufacturer. Founded in 1899, Albion built its reputation on the motto, "Sure as the sunrise," which appeared beneath the company's distinctive rising sun badge. They were known for building honest, reliable, no-nonsense commercial vehicles that were particularly popular in Scotland, the north of England, and across the British Empire. The Clydesdale, named after the famous Scottish draft horse breed, was introduced in 1954 as a medium-weight lorry designed for general haulage. It was available in both normal control bonnet forward and forward control configurations. Powered by Albion's own 4- and 6-cylinder diesel engines, the Clydesdale was not the most powerful or the most glamorous lorry on British roads, but it was rugged, simple, and dependable. What makes the Clydesdale strange in hindsight is how completely it has vanished from public memory despite being produced in substantial numbers. Albion lorries were once a common sight across Britain, particularly in Scotland, where they were a source of national pride. But in 1951, Albion was acquired by Leyland Motors. Through the 1960s, the Albion identity was gradually diluted. In 1972, British Leyland discontinued the Albion mark entirely, absorbing what remained into the Leyland brand. The Rising Sun badge disappeared from British roads, and with it, Scotland's last major lorry manufacturer. Number 3. Jensen JNSN. Most people know Jensen as a manufacturer of sleek sports cars and grand tourers, including the famous Jensen Interceptor. What very few people know is that Jensen Motors of West Bromwich also built lorries, and not just any lorries, but some of the most distinctive commercial vehicles Britain has ever produced. In 1946, Jensen launched the JNSN, a lightweight commercial vehicle range that included vans and lorries. The design was genuinely ahead of its time. Jensen used lightweight aluminium panels over a steel frame, forward control cab-over-engine layouts, and styling that was far more streamlined than anything else in the British commercial vehicle market. The JNSN range included models for payloads from 1.5 to 5 tons. Jensen had actually been building commercial vehicle bodies since the 1930s, working as a coach builder for other chassis manufacturers. The JNSN was their attempt to produce a complete vehicle under their own name. However, the company was small, production numbers were limited, and the commercial vehicle market was brutally competitive. Jensen could not match the economies of scale of Bedford, Ford, or the other major players. By the early 1950s, Jensen abandoned commercial vehicle production entirely to focus on their more profitable sports car business. The JNSN lorries and vans were forgotten almost immediately. Today they are among the rarest British commercial vehicles in existence, with only a handful of survivors known. Number 2. Scammell Scarab. The Scammell Scarab was the successor to the mechanical horse we met at number 10, and it took the three-wheeled concept to its logical extreme. Produced from 1948 to 1967, the Scarab replaced the angular utilitarian mechanical horse with a much more refined design featuring a rounded beetle-like bonnet that earned it the snub-nose nickname. The name Scarab is commonly believed to come from the resemblance to a scarab beetle, but the truth is more prosaic. It was actually a portmanteau of Scammell and Arab, referencing the Arab horse breed, which the mechanical horse had been designed to replace in railway delivery work. The Scarab was powered by a 2090cc side-valve petrol engine, with diesel versions available using a Perkins engine. It retained the brilliant automatic coupling system that allowed a driver to hitch and unhitch trailers without leaving the cab. This made it extraordinarily efficient for railway parcels depots, postal sorting offices, and urban delivery rounds, where a single tractor might swap between dozens of trailers in a shift. British Railways became the Scarab's biggest customer, and the three-wheeled machines became a ubiquitous sight in goods yards and city streets across Britain. The Ministry of Defence also used them for internal transport on military bases. Approximately 30,000 mechanical horses and Scarabs of all types were produced over the combined production runs. About 60 Scarabs are known to survive today in preservation. A four-wheeled version called the Scarab 4 was produced using a standard Atlas van chassis, but it was not a success. Only a handful were sold in Britain, though 60 were exported to South Africa and Macau. No surviving examples of the Scarab 4 are known to exist in the United Kingdom. Number 1. Sentinel Diesel Lorry. Our number 1 spot goes to a lorry from a company that was already an anachronism when it was brand new. Sentinel Waggon Works. The same company that built the steam lorries we discussed at number 9 finally conceded defeat to the internal combustion engine in 1947 and launched a range of diesel lorries. And remarkably, they managed to make their diesel vehicles almost as eccentric as their steam ones. Sentinel's diesel range, produced under the new company name Sentinel Shrewsbury Limited, featured an underfloor engine layout that was a direct descendant of the underfloor engine position used in their steam wagons. Where most British lorry manufacturers placed the diesel engine under a bonnet at the front or under the cab in a forward control arrangement, Sentinel tucked theirs beneath the chassis floor, similar to how the steam engine had sat in their earlier designs. The vehicles were superbly engineered, beautifully built, and practically bomb-proof. Sentinel's engineering standards were legendary, inherited from decades of precision steam locomotive and wagon construction. The fit and finish of a Sentinel Diesel Lorry was said to be closer to a Rolls-Royce than a Bedford, but superb engineering does not pay the bills if you cannot sell enough vehicles. Sentinel was a small company competing against giants like Leyland, AEC, ERF, Foden, and Bedford. Their vehicles were expensive to produce and priced accordingly. Sales dwindled throughout the early 1950s, and in 1956, Sentinel was forced to cease lorry production entirely. Rolls-Royce purchased the Shrewsbury factory to use for diesel engine manufacture, and the remaining stock of parts and vehicles was taken over by Sentinel's chief dealer, North Cheshire Motors of Warrington. A new company, Transport Vehicles Warrington Limited, or TVW, was formed in 1957 to produce Sentinel-based designs, but it was a shadow of what had been. The Sentinel name, which had graced some of the finest steam and diesel vehicles Britain had ever produced, faded into history. Today, Sentinel lorries are extraordinarily rare, cherished by the small community of enthusiasts who appreciate that sometimes the strangest machines are also the most magnificent. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me which of these strange lorries surprised you the most. I will see you in the next one.